Okay, welcome back to our, I think, final lesson with these scenes here, using nature set number 9, okay? We've gone through all kinds of different processes on these. We've stamped it on matte paper, gold foil, glossy photo stock, or not photo stock, glossy paper. We've used photo stock here, photo prints. Right here in photo stamping, we've used some dark blue Stardream paper right here. The Versafine Clair really bled on that one. Have to kind of keep that in mind. Brayering, I don't know, on and on. Okay, now we are, we have quite a few scenes here now, okay? And I think all of these just on their own are fine as far as a finished looking scene, okay? Spray sealing would bring out some extra vibrancy in just about all of these. I don't think I would spray the foil there. I don't know what would happen with the inks that are sitting there on the surface, okay? But most of these, in terms of your card stocks and whatnot, would stand to benefit from a good spray seal, okay? Especially something like this one right here. This one looked really quite vibrant, but when it dries to a dull sheen like that. Depends on the inks that you're using too. This one's the Marvy inks, and this is, by and large pretty dry right here, but they're a little bit more vibrant when dry, okay? But the great equalizer is spraying them. Okay, but there's also some other things that we can do to these scenes, and I think that's what this video is going to be about. If you want to take your scenes from kind of, this type of finish to something a little bit more, I don't know, maybe full and kind of more well-rounded in terms of a finished piece, in terms of our value ranges, textures, etc., okay? So, that being said, let's go into these things right here. Now, the difference between kind of something that looks a little bit unfinished to me and finished, it's not a great distance on most of these things, okay? Sometimes even some very small touches can make a huge difference, okay? It could be adding something completely new, like I thought I would use some crystal rhinestones maybe. Maybe a quote stamp. It could be a different word stamp or something like that. But let's just start off with the basics right here, okay? We have a scene like this one right here, and I've utilized the Memento, 3 colors in Memento. I don't know if I used the Summer Sky. I might have used a re-inker fluid and maybe the Distress ink, Tumble Glass or something like that. I don't remember at this point in time. But let's take a look at this right now. We have our range of blues. It's not that extreme right here, okay? And I think it looks fine as is. But for me, I like to go a little bit more in terms of the value scheme, okay? If we make one thing darker on any of these scenes, that can go darker. By contrast, the light in these scenes are going to seem one step lighter, okay? So we're never really working with light in anything because we're talking about reflected light. There's no light bulb like, in the back of this, card right here with actual light. So let's hit this with a little bit more value and let's see what that looks like. Okay, so I have a paper towel here. Now, my Marvy inks just get darker, okay, than this one right here. You can use other types of brands too. Maybe even the Memento will get darker now that this is dry and more of this ink will transfer over. Let's give that a shot first, okay? But I know the Marvy will. Okay, now it would really be a good idea for me to re-moisten this with some of those lighter tones again, because that'll make this easier to go, you know what I mean? But that being said, this isn't hard or anything like that. Okay, see, I'm just going with this really light touch like that, okay? It's not harsh or anything like that. I'm not going like this, okay? So, ink up pretty good, and just do your, kind of good technique in terms of staying in one area. This is where, you can potentially get kind of these harsher marks just because you're going with a really dark ink on dry paper, Does that make sense? It's just the paper is absorbing and grabbing that ink off of your paper towel or whatever applicator you happen to be using faster, okay? And because it's darker, you know, it'll stand to make, you know, kind of a stronger mark too, okay? But that being said, I mean, this is going on just fine. I'm just going on with a very light touch. Think about it like you're applying, you know, like powder or something like that to a piece, okay? Don't see it as like wanting to get, you know, a real definitive slathering. You know, keep with your good technique of just kind of working a small area. And on this one right here, I'm working my four corners. Can you see that getting darker right there? On those four edges like that? This one is not done, but you can see that little extra. Isn't that kind of bringing out the cloud a little bit more, too? Or the moon, I should say. And the clouds, too. The clouds are lighter, okay? I think that looks pretty good. Let's go even darker, okay? I can add more ink to get darker, okay? See, I'm just kind of pulling that across like that. If I get too strong of a mark, I got a little bit of a fingerprint like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just staying in that area and just kind of blending it out a little bit more, okay? So right there. Okay, let's go in this corner again. Over here. The more I add ink in these areas like that, the little bit more moist it gets, and I can feel, you know, that application go on a little bit smoother, especially on this one. This is the matte cardstock, so it's really absorbing my ink fast. Okay, let's go to this Marvy blue. This isn't the Prussian, is it? I think it's number 3, just straight blue. Marvy's are a little bit brighter, yeah. I don't know if you can tell on camera. Isn't that kind of nice? That you see how it's giving it a little bit of a stronger vignette. I'll show you a comparison. You know, my other scenes that I did with those 3 inks are still here. So I'll hold these up so you can kind of see what I'm talking about as far as that strong perimeter vignette. But see, I mean, this is 2 more colors. Well, actually, it's 1 more color. I've just added more of the memento. But this right here is the same color scheme as this one. This is what this one looked like, okay? Which one looks kind of more full and, you know what I mean, bolder? Okay, so this one now is darker, but it's also brighter, right? See that? Isn't that a much brighter blue? This looks a little anemic now by kind of comparison, okay? So this goes 1 step darker on the edges. This is 1 step lighter. I don't know, to me, this moon looks brighter, or lighter to me, than this one right here. Even though they're the same, they're just white, right? When you show it like that, just that contrast makes it pop a little bit more. You always hear that kind of term in art classes, you know. You add a little bit of darkness right here, or here, and it makes that pop, you know. That's what they always heard that term being used, pop. It just makes it more exciting, you know, you're working with contrast. Let's play around here. Let's go with black too, okay? I'll show you what black looks like. Oftentimes, if my imagery is stamped out in black, I like to use black as my surrounding area, okay? Now, if you're using a really super wet black, be careful about it now, okay? Maybe blot it off a few times, okay? Okay, let's go like that. See, I'm kind of just lightly dabbing it in. I'm staying more perimeter oriented too. I'm staying on the outside edge a little bit longer. Okay, see that right there? How much darker that is? It's kind of a grayish blue though, because the blue is showing through that little swipe of black. I mean, it looks more like gray because I'm doing a very light application of it, okay? This is where sometimes, too, when people go to black, I just see this harsh line right there where they just add black like that and it's just blue. It's not kind of this transitioning, you know, darker to lighter like that. They just kind of go like this. And it's really kind of a harsh line like that. Although that's not too harsh. I don't know, I'm trying to go harsh. Maybe, I don't know. See, that's like that. And there we go. I mean, that's, you know, let me go a little bit a stronger perimeter like this. Maybe, I call this tipping the edges like this. But look how that moon really stands out now. Okay? All right, so that is that. It's basically adding, I don't know, one more blue and black there on the edge. But look how much more kind of full that value range is on this one than this right here. Okay? All right, so that is adding a little bit more darkness, especially on the corners like that. It adds a nice framing vignette, okay? Like a little frame around it. Okay, now we've taken things one step darker on the edge. Now, what else can we do? Let's do the opposite. Let's make some areas in here a little bit lighter. So we have our certain value range, okay? Light to dark. We've pushed the dark out this way a little bit more. Let's take this and push it a little bit more this way. Although that white is there, but let's push some other areas a little bit lighter. Okay, now here's the thing that's going to differ for you and I. This pad right there, this Hero Arts Hues, my pad is really dry, okay? So you might have to adjust how you use your pigment ink, okay? Most people's pads, white pigment inks, they don't use it that often, okay? I didn't use it before until I started using it this way a lot. But what I do is I dab some of this ink onto my cotton ball here. Use 100% cotton too, okay? My pad is really dry. It's really dry. It's not even medium dry, it's dry, okay? I need to get a re-inker for it. But let me take some of this right here, okay? Now remember, this isn't the Brilliance white. This is just regular slow-drying pigment ink, okay? I wouldn't use the Brilliance for this purpose right here. You want to be able to kind of add this in nice and slowly and to be able to manipulate it. You don't want it to dry like that, which Brilliance will do, especially on matte paper. Glossy paper too. It just doesn't dry very fast on the foils. Okay, so what are we going to do with this? Okay, so we've extended our value range one step darker, but now this right here is going to expand our value range too by going a little bit lighter in some areas, but it's also a textural range. We're going to take everything from very crisp impressions, okay, to making some a little bit softer, and the moon's a perfect example of how to do this right here, or where you can do it. I mean, you can do it in all kinds of areas, but the moon's really fantastic for that. Okay, do you see how crisp the edge is on that moon? Let's go in here and add this in. I'm hoping that this isn't so dry that we can't see anything. Okay, I see it happening. It's starting to... Can you see where that moon is starting to glow a little bit more, where I'm adding this pigment ink? I'll show you what I'm doing right here. Let me see, where's a piece of that Stardream paper? Okay, I think I showed you this on the Stardream, but I was using the Brilliance, but what I'm doing is this right here. Okay, see that little bit right there? And then I'm kind of expanding it out like this, so I'm putting this kind of glowing little area. Okay, I mean, I've tapped that out a lot, and I'm tapping pretty hard, okay? But I have a very dry applicator, but it's perfect for this purpose. But see that little area in there? See this faded out area right out here? That's going to create that glow on here, so here we have it right here on this moon. Let me go with a little bit of a thicker ink right here so it's more visible. This is the Moonlight Duo hybrid ink pad. That's the hybrid ink right there, but this side right here is just straight white pigment ink, okay? Let me see if that's inked up enough. Can't even tell. If you can't tell, just kind of dab nice and slowly and lightly like this. Okay, this is better. It can stand to use quite a bit of ink right here. Okay, this is good. I'm adding it down on some of my clouds as well, okay? But I'll show you where this comes into play as far as a textural range, okay? Do you see that? Oh, let's do a comparison contrast here. Okay, so here's one moon right here, and here's another. Okay, do you see how that one's really glowing like that? Okay, we see that one right in there. Okay, and I put it over some of my clouds as well. You can put it on a Q-tip and kind of dab some areas in here, but look at that. As far as a textural range, we have all these crisp tree tops right here, and it contrasts against a really soft light up there in the moon. Okay, now let's do it down here. I mean, this could stand to use a little bit more tone in here, but you saw what that did on that one. I want to do this on 12 different scenes. But let's put this pigment ink onto this scene right here. Okay, now I would just put it over the top of the moon in the last one, but this one, the moon is behind these trees, okay? But let's watch what this does on those trees right there, okay? Doesn't it push those trees kind of back in the distance a little bit by having them, and it also puts them in the moonlight. Let me put a little bit on this tree over here and these trees, okay? Just dab it really lightly where it's like you're putting on like a powdery type of touch onto that. But look at those trees like that now. Don't they change in terms of texture? Don't they look softer? It's like they're being enveloped in soft light like that. Let's push this one a little bit more extreme. Let's put some fog right in here, like where the moonlight is shining through and it's hitting this fog around here. I got some little purple ink there from having this paper, scene sitting down, but I don't know, ignore that. Okay, so let's put some of this at the base of these. Now watch this. See how I've tapped it out a few times? You can't see anything. Okay, that's what you want. You don't want to see tap white ink, okay? You want to do it where it's like, it takes a while for you to see anything at all, okay? Think about it like you're just barely applying any, this little, faint little amount of white powder. That's not what you're doing, but, that's the concept right there in terms of the touch, okay? See that right there? Let's take a look at and see what the difference is between this side right here and this side. See how dark it is right over here, but see how light it is right here. But, I think a Q-tip would be better to get, kind of a smaller area right there. But let's just keep using this right now. A little bit too much, okay? See, I inked it up and I went straight in there. I'm used to using my hero hues. But let me use this one. This will be good, though, because most of your pads will be really super juicy, like this one. Okay, see, I'm kind of adding this down at the base of these rocks right here. Someone put, that's where I've always added my mist, at the base of the rocks, like it's coming off. But I saw someone's recently where they put it on the top of the rocks, and the top of the rocks were like glowing. I thought, oh, that looks fantastic. All right, see that right there? See, I put some of this mist right in here, in this area, but I've left this area a little bit darker because here's my theory. These areas right here wouldn't be getting so much of that light from the moon. Okay, they're in the dark. And where you would see fog or something like that has to have lighting coming off of it. It doesn't have to be so kind of, you don't have to get into theory or something like that, or kind of, just the areas that are just closer to the light source are going to be illuminated. So, you can put a little bit more of this right in here. Can you see what that's doing? See, you just kind of add it down. And one of the things is with doing this type of thing too, when this starts to dry, and it dries pretty fast, okay, it gets darker. So you have to apply a little bit more. So sometimes you just add it down there and then let it set up for, I don't know, a couple minutes, and then add a little bit more. But here's what I like to do, oscillate it too. Don't put just everywhere in here like that. Kind of tap in a little bit here, a little bit there. Kind of leave some spaces in between where there's less buildup of this, there's less fog, so oscillate it, okay? And I think that makes it look more effective because you're playing contrasts against one another. Okay, now look at that solo canoeist down there. Okay, let's give that little character something in common with that area back here in terms of texture and lighting, okay? Let's go like this and add, like I said, a Q-tip might be better for this, but I think I can do it with a cotton ball here, okay? See that like that? Now we've kind of enveloped that little character, but see, I didn't put it over everything. I'm not just trying to erase it. I'm kind of putting some here and some over here, okay? But look at that now. Isn't that kind of a fun little texture? I don't know, can you even see it? See like that? And now when we look at it like this as a whole, it just has kind of a more, I don't know, kind of a, there's more lighting continuity, textural continuity in here. Okay, let's put a little bit more of this around this moon and make it glow like my last one. Let's put it up here in the clouds too, okay? Let's kind of bring those clouds to life. It doesn't change it drastically or anything like that. It just kind of puts a little bit of this added glow in there. Now, you don't put this white anywhere where you don't have kind of some white of the page remaining, okay? Because this represents kind of this white light. Like, I can't use this in that sunset Braillard scene, okay? You wouldn't use like a white reflected light in here because there is no white reflected light, you know, or light source. There isn't a white light source in here, okay? But these, you know, these other scenes like this where there's white in here, you know what I mean? It would really stand out kind of awkward in this one right here. Under this one right here, on the Stardream, I don't know. Maybe you can add it in there. I don't know if I would, though. But that really comes in handy like that. See that right there? But doesn't that push that, doesn't that look more distant now than these areas out here? And let's take a look at this, okay? Let's look at let's compare and contrast, okay? That we have this area in here, and now look at that. Doesn't it look, I don't know, to me it looks like a different, I mean, it looks like the same stamp, yeah, but this one just looks more, that cove back there where it goes back in the distance, that looks much farther to me than this one. There's more spatial distance in this one. This one doesn't look bad, it's just, you know, this one looks deeper like that. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so that is some of the white pigment ink, okay? So we've made some areas a little bit darker, and on these ones we've made some areas a little bit lighter, so you're just pushing things a little bit. I mean, you know, putting a little pigment ink right in there. I didn't, you know, I would darken this too if I was going to finish it off. But those little things like that can really do a lot for a scene. Okay, now let's stay with that same lighting concept right here. We've added a very soft lighting to these, right? This needs a little bit more. It's drying. Okay, I can barely see what I've added. Which is a good thing. When you're adding very little at any given time, there's a lot more control over it, right? Than something that's so, you know, stark, you know, different after some application. These are kind of subtle little changes right here. Okay, I'm putting some of this pigment ink on these clouds. Okay, see that again like that? Easy stuff to do, all right? Now, let's stay with that same lighting concept, but let's add, instead of a soft light, let's add kind of a crisp light to these, okay? I love these types of pens and touches that we can do with our white paint pens. Again, if you have some white light in a scene, then you would get some kind of sparkly little specular light touches, okay? Let's take a look and talk about specular light, okay? If you have something that's very reflective, okay, these are crystals right here. You see that light shining off some of those crystals in there? That's specular light. It's reflected light. It's light that's brighter than white, okay? This is white down here. This is like reflective light. Specular light just is not just on crystals, okay, little bright little stones or something like that. Let's take a look at these pads. Can we see all that specular light on these? This is a black pad right here. It has as much kind of specular light coming off of the reflection as the white part of the pad too, right? So you can see all those things right there. That's really reflecting all the light right here. There's a blue pad, medium blue pad, black pad. Okay, oh no, that's compression. This one's the black. Look at that. I mean, the black reflects practically the same amount. My hand has a little bit of specular light, like on the knuckles right here, okay? I wouldn't say that's whiter, brighter than white, but I think you get the point. That's what we're going for with these. Look at this one right here. You take out that kind of little highlight out there, and this doesn't look as dimensional. Okay, so let's take a look at this, and let's imagine these are rocks, okay? See that little highlight coming off the top of it like that? That's kind of the way you can look at some rocks in here, okay? Here's the tops of the rocks. Where do you put the highlights? Well, you're not going to put it, underneath the rock, okay? We have the light is coming from above, okay? So let's just take, now this one's not, you're not going to be able to see kind of my highlights in here so much because this area in here is already fairly light, but let's put a couple little dots on the tops of some of these rocks right here. I usually start on the rocks that are closest to, or the objects that are closest to my moon, okay? This is a white paint pen here. This is a Miaosun white paint pen. I'm pretty sure it's the same as the Artistros and a number of other ones out there. But do you see those highlights on those rocks now? So I put a little bit more in the objects, around the objects that are closer to my light source like that. Okay, let's take a look at these rocks right here. Okay, there's a lot of illumination on this one, so they're light too, but look at that. Let's take a look at these right here. I think these areas up in here, then they look a little more three-dimensional to you, having that light on there. Okay, let's go like this. A few little dots like that. Okay, now here's what I usually do. Away from my light source, I'll dissipate it. I'll put more highlights on the objects closer to my light source. And, as I move outward into the darker areas, remember it's a little bit more of a kind of a vignette out here, darker blues out here. I put less highlights in there because that's a darker area, okay? Let me eliminate this one. I'll show you how fast this can go. Okay, now this one right here doesn't have an actual moon, but we have light coming from above and reflecting off the surface like that. Now the white doesn't show in some of these areas because the rocks are practically white. Well, no, I guess it did. There was a little bit of tone on all of them. If this was a snowy scene, what you can do is you can put a lot more of this white on the top, and it would reflect snow on the top there. See that right there? Yeah, it kind of brings that area to life. Okay? Now, when you start using this, the tendency is just to go overboard, because when we're doing a dot like that, I'm looking at this tiny little space. It's easy to get focused in on each little thing. But then what you have to do is you kind of have to hold it at an arm's distance and take a look at what you're doing. The darker the scene, the less highlights I would do, because they would really stand out a lot more on a much darker scene, okay? And I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so here, some little reflections up on those rocks. Where else would you see specular light? Specular light is all, in water too. So let's add this down in some water like this. See, this is lighter in the middle, so I'd add a few more dots in here, and then what you do is you spread out these dots down here. Okay, I'm going kind of crazy with it right here. Maybe that's a little bit too much, but they're fun, so what, All right, so seeing that like that? Little highlights in my water. They don't really stand out too much like that, but then upon closer inspection, those little things like that are nice. Water, you can do little lines like this too if you want to. Okay. All right. Now, where else? Let's add it in something like this. Well, where do you add it in something like this? There's no rocks or water. Well, silver lining to every cloud, right? Let's go in here like this. Okay, where's the light coming from on these clouds? They're coming from below. So watch this. A few little highlights on my cloud on the bottom side of this cloud right here, okay? See this right here? These clouds are being bottom lit because the light is coming from below, okay? And you can see on my design already has lighting on it, okay? Where it's light, okay? Now these clouds underneath the moon are being top lit, so you put a few little highlights on the top side of the moon. Okay, see I'm getting a little bit farther away from my moon, so I'm using a few less dots maybe, okay? Something like that. It looks kind of crazy. It looks like Christmas lights, huh? I don't know. I'm not taking my time here, but this is what it looks like, though, okay? Holding it at arm's distance. It's not so extreme, okay? Okay, but here's the thing, too. I kind of cluster my highlights, and then I kind of taper them off a little bit, like this. Here's the thing that you guys are going to do if you doing this for the first time. You're going to space all of your dots out equally, okay? So what I'm doing right here, I'll show you what I'm doing here on the Stardream. So I'm kind of clustering them a little bit like this, and I have a stronger highlight like that, okay? And then I spread it out so it kind of tapers off like this, okay? So it's higher concentration, and then it kind of tapers off like that, okay? For the most part. It's a little bit of higher concentration and tapering, okay? Let me show you it in the extreme of what I'm talking about, okay? Oh, you can do things like this too. See these trees down here? You can put, on a few little these branches, pines or whatever, limbs. I'll just do this on a few of these, okay? But do you see how those little highlights on some of those trees make that stand out? Don't those trees look a little bit more dimensional now, reflecting some of that light? These ones right here look okay, but these ones right here have a little bit of extra character to them. It doesn't mean that I think it should be done every time, but it sure is fun. Okay, so let's show you this one right here. This is your blue Stardream paper. Boy, that is really extreme there. Let me see here. Let me pause this video. I need to change my... Okay, there we go. Change my exposure here. This is going to stand out on blue Stardream. Okay, now we have some of that white on there, but let's show you this right here. I'm just going to put a few little dots right here. Okay, do you see that? How it's kind of awakening or making more dimensional some of these rocks in here. Now see how I went very sparse with it in here. Look at that. It's capturing that light in there where those old dots, before didn't exist, okay? Now, let's hit this area down here with a few little specular light reflections on the water, okay? I'm kind of adding these little striations here. I have these little areas on my stamp too. The Lakeside Cove, and Onlet's Canoeist too. Solo canoe. It's kind of got these vertical little spots, so let's take a look right here. See those little areas in the water? Doesn't it give that water a little bit more surface area? It gives it a little bit more dimension. Okay, the moon right here on these clouds. A little bit of bottom light in. I'm not going to do too much because it is really dark up there. I'm just barely touching this Miaosun to the paper so I can get a tiny, tiny dot. Okay, now this area underneath. See those little, just tiny little dots up there? Is that fun? And the area down here was our white pigment ink under, coating, blocking out. So I can probably add a little bit more highlights on it because it's a lighter area. So we're saying that more light is hitting it. But still, this is a pretty dark scene, so I'm not going to add too much, okay? There you have it. Look how blurred out my Versafine Clair got right here. I mean, it should be, nice and crisp like this. It's real blobby. I think it looks okay, though, just because this scene is so dark, It's not that obtrusive of a, I don't know, whatever, blurred look or whatnot. Okay, so that is, oh, okay, let me do one more. I love doing it on this type of a gold cardstock, okay? Look at that shimmering light down there. Okay, I think this is fairly dry now. It's not really super dry, but enough. I can tell in this white, I don't know, I've been setting stuff down, and there you can see like a bunch of little scratches and stuff like that where I've touched the white ink and it just comes right off. So there's all scratches in here. Okay, but let's add some of this. Okay, I'm going to work for horizontal, if you don't mind. But this is the configuration of it. I can just do it easier this way because my hand goes right here. I don't have to go like, this is kind of an awkward thing to me, but with my hand just kind of naturally goes like this, okay? So I'm going to go like this. Okay, so, well, it's hard to work on these such reflective cards because I can't see, because sometimes the angle for me has the light reflecting off of it so much. Like a mirror, it's like putting, light in my face. Okay, see that right there on those rocks? Isn't it fun? It brings that area really to life for me. And let's put some little highlights on our water savers. Now this one right here, you have a lot of dried pigment ink on the surface, and it is really sitting on the surface, okay? So when you hit it with your paint pen, you just really have to get that paint pen kind of flowing like this, okay? Otherwise you're kind of removing pigment ink as opposed to transferring acrylic pen ink onto the surface, okay? Okay, so adding that down like that. Alright, kind of adding some down like that. Look how it gives it that surface kind of sparkle. Alright, there's our moon up there too, right? How about right above that moon up there? Okay, alright, something like that. And there you have it. This is a pretty cool framed or something like that. I'm not framed as in putting it in like a picture frame or something like that, but I'm talking about like a matting around this or something like that, with some paper, black or something like that, or white and black. I think that would be pretty cool. But look at how those reflections really stand out. And then you go like this. Not as visible. I don't know. I like playing around with foil like that. Okay, so getting darker, getting lighter, soft light, sharp light, right? Adding little different types of effects for different looks, kind of it expands the visual vocabulary of a scene. We have different textures in here now. We have very crisp. On some of these we have very soft and crisp with the highlights on there. Okay, now let's see here. Okay, now on something like this, there's just no opportunity for white highlights because we've gone, the lighting in here is yellow, golds, oranges, reds. Look at these paint pens right here. Let's have some fun here. This is a gold paint pen, okay? And I got all these flowing. I shook all these up before I started this video right here. A lot of times I don't do that, and I end up like, who wants to watch me shaking a pen for like a minute? But let's add some little stars in here, okay? This is a golden scene, so white stars would be okay, but I think a few gold ones, okay? This is what I do for my stars. I kind of cluster. I put some close together, and I have some farther apart. Then I'll add a larger star here and there. You can add actual constellations up here. Add Orion or, the Big Dipper or something like that. Okay. But these are just stars up here. And you can't see them hardly, right? But then you know, if you have, see, this is a gold pen, so at certain angles, you'll bring them to life, okay? This is what I always talk about in my scenes when doing that. When you have little details in a piece like that, okay, it rewards someone, the viewer, whoever you give your card to, or it could be you, okay? It rewards someone for further inspection, closer inspection. If they look closer, it's like they discover more things, okay? And you're giving them more things to discover like that. Here's a few things. See, you can't see it in the water, right? But then, see that right there? See those little, I don't know, it could be specular light down there, or it could just be, there's reflections of these gold stars down in the water there. So see, invisible, star, star, right? Yeah, so it's this fun little lighting kind of situation that's happening down there. All right, let's see here. Let's do something. There's not, I don't know, I can't think of too much to do here. I could go a little bit darker on the outside areas like that. But let's just have some fun here, and let's do something with, how about a star here, okay? In the form of a crystal. All right, little bling to the scene. Okay, I just have some glue here. It's not specialized glue or anything like that. It was like the only glue that I had, and it was probably from, I don't know, 15 years ago. I have no idea where I got this from. Tombow, Mono Aqua, liquid glue. Okay, let's see right here. Let's add a little dot of this glue here. Let's go here. Kind of, again, don't kind of position everything perfectly, spaced apart. I guess you can if you want to, but I guess I'm adding a few more of these than I thought I would. Maybe subconsciously. I have so much fun adding these in here. I was just going to add one or two. But, okay. This is just, I forgot the brand of these. I got the cheapest ones that I saw on Amazon, so. And this little kit right here cost like $8, and I don't know there was like, I don't know, 2,000 of them or something like that in here. I don't know, maybe it was like 300 or something, I don't know. It's Tech Unite or something. Okay, now this is it's called a gem picker right here. It makes my life a lot easier grabbing these little things. It just sticks to this little rubber kind of coated needle there. And I'm just adding these down with great surgical precision. I'm joking. You're just kind of just dabbing it right on that little thing there. It kind of brings that area to life. You'll always hear me kind of saying that, because what we're doing is we're expanding on the textural range of the entire scene, but with something that's reflective like this, it really is adding light into darkness. And in this case, it's kind of an extreme version of that. I could add light into darkness by using the white pigment ink or the white paint pen, but I don't know. I just think this is really fun to do. I guess these are different colors too, but I don't know. I always like those like picture books, those children's books too, where you turn the page and they have one of those little things that makes noise, or crickets, or there's a firefly and it's actually flashing. Well, this is a way to kind of add those little things, kind of some kind of element, exciting element to the piece, without having to go electric, or have some kind of battery powered thing, or working LEDs. But look at those little twinkly lights up there. Didn't that kind of bring that area to life? It was basically, I don't know, just a monochromatic sky up there. Without really any range at all, but you add that in there, And suddenly, that area up there really becomes the focal point. This scene is about, everything down here is supporting that, in my opinion, because that's the real attention getter up there. Now, I don't know if I would use some of those down here in the water as a reflection. Probably not. I'm not going to do it here, but you certainly could. Okay, so let's go to this. Okay, now let's go back. Let's backtrack a little bit to. You can use these like down sparkly little things in your water, like the base of waterfalls too, and things like that. I've used that for that before. But okay, let's go back to the white pigment ink. Okay. On the photo stamping scenes, I think that this application of white pigment ink on photo stamping scenes is where this really comes together for me, okay? I mean, I think this is cool and everything like that, but, to me it's a little bit, I don't know, it's sterile to me, okay? But let me use some of this white pigment ink in here, okay? I just think it looks great because we have all this cloud formation in the background, right? But now, when I add some of this white pigment ink into the scene, it's like we're bringing that cloud to life and we're adding some of that cloud in front of things. So it's enveloping our imagery in a cloud. In this case, it's mist. Okay, there's cloudy black background, but what is a cloud? It's moisture, right? See, I put some right there. But now let's put some over here. Don't put it over everything. Well, I guess you could if it's a super foggy day and you want to depict that, but I like to oscillate it a little bit. Like I said, I like to play contrast against one another. If you leave some areas just as is, then this area seems that much lighter by contrast, okay? So you're kind of playing crisp against soft, dark against light, okay? You don't have to overanalyze it, though. Just say, less is more, or you can think about it as checkerboarding, you have darker, lighter, crisp, soft, okay? And it just means don't use it everywhere, okay? Now watch this in the trees right here. I'm putting it in between these trees right here. Isn't it making those trees kind of more illuminated and kind of a part of this whole kind of, I don't know, atmosphere or whatnot. See how I've kind of made that area lighter back in there? But let's leave this just as is. But let's see. Let's put a little bit more. Let's put a little fog right in here. There's a little corner right here. Okay? See what that did? Let's leave that crisp right there. Okay. Adding this on this one pine tree right here a little bit. Okay. How about around this loon? So I'm putting the loon in a little bit of cloud or moisture. Okay. Look at that illumination now throughout the piece. Doesn't it set the imagery into the photograph a little bit more? Let's go a little bit more right here just to push, this kind of atmosphere a little bit more. Okay. This is where, I don't know, these pieces really come together for me in terms of making kind of a strong visual statement. It's with the white pigment ink. Okay, see that right there? Let me push it here a little bit more for you so you can get a little bit more of an extreme. And you can use the white pen in here if you want to, acrylic pen if you want. See these birds right here? I don't know if you remember, but I stamped some of these out lighter than the other ones, so it pushes them back in the distance a little bit. Well, let's push them back a little bit more just by putting some white pigment ink over the top of them. All right. It's subtle, yeah, but it's really easy to do. We're not making these big, gigantic, you know, marks on here. Okay, but you see that in here, a little bit in here. So there's none right here, some right here, a little bit less over here, and then in the background I put some in there. And a little bit right here. You see this is a little bit more crisp. So I'm kind of oscillating. You kind of put it here and there and put it in kind of a very soft touch. Remember I put a little bit of pigment ink at the base of my solo canoeist before. Now I'm putting it in front of this little creature in the water too, the loon. And I put a little bit up there on those birds. What this does too, this is another thing that you're doing. When you do little things like this, when you put the same textures on things like in the background, midground, and foreground like that, what you're doing is you're creating visual continuity between all of these different spaces. Very distant, distant, near, okay? So it's like a needle and thread. You're putting all these similar textures throughout the base. And that's the same thing that goes for things like, you know, highlights in things that are far as well as things that are near. It creates this continuity between the two of them and a relationship. So you're making all these different relationships throughout your pieces, okay? Now this one's a little bit different. We don't have a bunch of, you know, crystals everywhere, okay? So you don't do it for everything. All right, let's do one more thing here. Okay, so for a scene like this really needs a zip of some extra ink here. Or, well, yeah, I'll just spray seal it, okay? But let's go with a quote stamp, okay? I haven't really been adding on additional stamps in these scenes. It wouldn't hurt to add in a couple different extra stamps, you know, and I'm kind of itching to do that. But let's do that with some quote stamps right here. This one's Nature Always Wears the Colors of the Spirit by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Let's go with black on this one, okay? Because I'm going to stamp it right up here in the sky. We'll spray seal this. I don't know, maybe I'll do a spray sealing video before I post this so we can see kind of the full range of, I don't know, kind of the complete process here. Okay, well, let me do a test print. Oops, I didn't press the bottom of that enough. I do practice impressions right there, perfect. Let's go, we can go center. Do I want to go center? Let's go a little bit off center. I don't know if it's, you know, angled or straight. Who cares? Well, I guess I care a little bit, but not too much. Okay, so nature always wears the colors of the spirit. Isn't that fantastic for, you know, that type of color scheme like that? The rainbow pad, you know, type of thing. That would be good up here too, right? Nature always wears the colors of the spirit. Look how dull this looks right here. This one will get a zip, you know, when I spray seal it. Let's see if I have some space for this other one. I just used this quote right here. Moonlight is sculpture by Hawthorne, Nathaniel Hawthorne, right? Nathaniel Hawthorne and Hawthorne. Let's see if I have some room for it on one of these scenes with a moon. This one up here. Nah, I don't have roots. The trees are in the way on that one. Oh, gosh. I can probably do it on here in white ink. I'm not sure. Oh, let's do it. Okay, let me do it. Let me try this right here. I don't know if this one's going to work. This, you know, the Stardream. I think it will, but I'm not sure. Okay, so this one right here. White, you know, is not going to show up right in here too much. Unless I made this darker, okay? Which, you know, the scene would benefit from. But let's just go right here. I didn't do a test print, but let's just kind of move on. Okay. Oops. Moonlight is sculpture. Okay. I don't know. I always liked the look of text with imagery. Okay. The marriage of text and imagery. Okay, now let's clean this one off. I'm going to go with white up here. I hope it prints out up there. I'll do it in a Brilliance Moonlight White ink. Okay, I have to clean off the black off of this one right now, though, first. Okay, Hero Hues. Here's my Moonlight White. I always forget the name of it. I know it's Moonlight. I can't remember if it's Moonlit or Moonlight White. Okay, so kind of making pigment ink impressions a little bit different than dye-based ink impressions. Okay, I'm just going to go for it here. I'm not going to do a test print. We'll see how it goes. I'm just hoping it transfers really well because I have ink laid down on the Stardream. It's not wet or anything like that, but okay, it looks pretty good, I think. It kind of matches the tone of this right down here, but look at this right here. Doesn't that, I don't know, doesn't it kind of fill, I don't know, complete the scene up there? Now, I should have used the Brilliance down here, but again, I think that looks fine. But yeah, I don't know, I might like it even more up there than black on, you know, the lighter one. But little quotes like that, I don't know, it finishes off the scene too. And when you're doing things like nature scenes like this, when you're doing cards, okay, I think these quotes like that, they don't have to be on the scene themselves. You can open the card, and then you can have the quote on the inside, okay, which would, it creates continuity between the scene and what you're writing on the inside too, okay? So I think that would be really quite effective. I think that, you know, that moonlight as sculpture on here would be kind of interesting. I like white imagery on top of the gold too. You can stamp with your Brilliance ink, like white trees in here. I don't know if I can do white over black. I can't remember what that looked like, but I think I might have tried that. But anyways, okay, so anyways, a little bit of extra touches on some of these. I didn't do it on all of them. The white ink would look really fantastic on the deep space one, you know, because this imagery is so light right there. You can really add a lot of white and kind of foggy effects in this type of scene right here. And that really kind of punches, you know, the impact of the piece. I guess I did finish off quite a few of these right here with some kind of different look. Okay, some of them were quite minimal, just adding a few little sparkly gold little dots up there. If I had a little gold crystal, some of these crystals have different color schemes to them, but you know, wouldn't this be great with a little bit of a yellowish twinkle up there? Okay. And here's some of those little stars down here, okay? Gold, acrylic paint pen. We have our darker perimeters right here. I would do the darker perimeter on all these blue ones, like, you know, this one and this one right here, okay? But going with the white pigment ink in there, it's subtle now, isn't it? See, my pigment ink got a lot drier and it kind of dulled out, so sometimes you have to kind of keep adding, you know, additional coats in there kind of to build up that pigment ink. But that's a good thing, though, because it really gives you a lot of leeway, all right? Sometimes you think you added too much, but then when it dries, it really disappears, and you might need to actually add more. But the white highlights in here, the white highlights are in here as well. You can see a lot of my pigment ink in here really slathered in some of that white in that area, and the white specular light on the water down there. The pigment ink, I mean, this is really subtle right here, but it's on that solo canoeist right there, okay? You can do a little comparison, contrast right there. See between these two canoeists like that. See, this one has a little bit more, I don't know, variation in terms of having a little bit of pigment ink down there. But see how this is really crisp? I think this one, you know, to me, this one looks like he's more a part of the, you know, the atmosphere in here. Okay. Moonlight is sculpture. You know, dark papers are always really dynamic to work with. It doesn't have to be the iridescent, you know, lapis lazuli either. It could just be a dark cardstock or a dark construction paper or something like that. Look how dramatic white on dark looks like, okay? And look at, you know, working with the darker paper, look how much those little highlights really stand out, even when I'm putting them over the top of white that we've already applied in there. So really just fun stuff, okay? All kinds of different colored cardstocks. Quote stamps again, you know, if I spray this, that would be really good. Other types of focal points that you can put up in the sky would be like an eagle or something like that, or some birds flying around up there. Do I have one of those on my desk here? Let's see if I can find a bird stamp really quick. If I don't have one, I don't want to use the migration. Maybe the spirit. I'm thinking about like an eagle or something like that. Oh, okay. I'm not gonna do it. I can't find something right now. But I think it would be kind of, if you put this little birds flying like that, you know, there's something this, you know, this uplifting spirit, right? If you have something kind of in flight over here, you know, you can do this all in grayscale and black and white. Nature always there's the colors of spirit. You can put bats up here, you know, for Halloween or something like that, right? As a kind of a joke. Then light a sculpture like that. Okay. And not crepuscular, but specular light in here on the water. Look how it really stands out. And it gives it, you know, some of that extra texture. Crystals. This one right here is really fun. Talk about kind of an easy scene to do. Okay, now here's one of the things I noticed with my Versafine Clair on glossy cardstock over the top of all that super wet, saturated, brayered ink in here. If you can see right around the perimeter of these, there's a little bit of this kind of shadow from that Versafine Clair. I think the oil from that ink has kind of spread out a little bit. See right here? It kind of makes the imagery look a little bit more dimensional, though. I don't know if you can tell, like right around here, that right around that pine tree, it's a slightly darker than this blue out here. Do you see that? It's because that oil from this ink is kind of spreading out a little bit into the paper. You know, if you look at oil, you know, like an oil stain on paper or something like that, you know how it moves out? I think that's what's happening here, and it's making the areas around it a little bit darker. I think it looks kind of interesting and neat, as long as it doesn't spread out a ½ inch or something like that. But if it's right next to it, I think that looks pretty good. Look at that, those little stars out there. Isn't that really fun? That's one of my favorite pieces right there. It's like the simplest thing to do. Dynamic types of things like this, but just left as is, looks okay. But bringing in this, when you bring in that pigment ink in here and here, what you're doing is you're taking that atmosphere and kind of essence up here of suspended moisture, illuminated moisture, and you're bringing it in here. So it's in the background and it's in the foreground too. And it's enveloping all of our different imagery. So what you're doing is you're kind of creating this visual kinesthetics, okay? It's about something, objects being enveloped by, you know, moisture in the air, water. Water is life, right? And it gives this continuity to the overall scene, and I think it just adds to just the visual richness of everything like that. Sometimes when you stamp just imagery straight over the top of something, another textural form, be it brayering or a photo scene like that, sometimes it has this, it creates a big separation between the two of them, and they seem unrelated. So just a little bit of sponged white pigment ink in here, now you've created a great relationship between that type of atmosphere in the background and that foreground. All right, so anyway, that is that. We'll spray seal these tomorrow, and I'll get this video uploaded. We have a lot of scenes like, you know, that have been created. And let's take a look and see what spray sealing will do with some of these, if I can get it done. If it's rainy today, tomorrow, I might not spray seal. I don't know. I'll try to get them spray sealed before I upload them. I haven't spray sealed in a while, but you can't do that in the rain, and you can't spray seal indoors unless you want to be breathing kind of very unhealthy air. Okay. Okay, we're here with scenes created for this mini workshop. And I have a can of Krylon UV Resistant Clear. Hope that's in focus. And it's an acrylic spray. And we're going to see what it does on these pieces. Okay, before I start this, the pigment style of ink, I need to be really careful about not oversaturating the area that I'm spraying if it has that pigment ink utilized, because this type of spray can make that oil-based type of media run if hit too hard. And right now it's a pretty good, I was going to say it's a pretty good day to spray. Of course, as soon as every time I start spraying it gets windy and starts blowing everything around, which is not good. But ideally it would be a little bit kind of warmer and drier out here, but oh my gosh, as soon as I get this done, everything starts blowing, of course. Alright, when I'm spray sealing, it never fails. As soon as I start setting up, wind kicks in. When there hasn't been any wind at all. It happens every video, I don't know why. Okay, so standard thing, you want to really shake these types of cans up right here. I have my comfort grip here. Standard spray painting technique of being about 8 inches to a foot away, I would say. Okay, so that being said, this one right here I believe was all dye-based inks. I don't need to worry about it. Let's take a look and see what it does to this Big and Juicy Rainbow Pad color scheme. See that right there? See how much darker it is and more saturated? It's a little bit more reminiscent of a kind of a freshly stamped scene. And it should dry like that too. A lot more saturated, deep, and vibrant as far as the colors go. Kind of looks like a glossy coated card, right? Not that matte isn't good. Matte looks good too. Let's take a look at this one right here. This is the matte paper again too. This one was stamped on glossy cardstock, but let's do this matte one first here. Let's see, am I still in focus here? Let's zoom in a little bit. I'll do it on the left-hand side so you can do a little compare contrast. Okay, hopefully you can see it. It's a lot more vibrant and deep right here. One of the other things too, don't spray too much around where you've applied the white pigment ink, okay? If it's kind of like a little foggy mist type of thing, otherwise you'll lose the kind of the effects of that. If you do, you can always kind of add more pigment ink over the top of this spray, and then don't spray it again, okay? Alright. Let's take a look at this one right here at the deep space. I need to be careful about this pigment ink impression down here, so maybe I'll just spray mostly towards the top. Give it just a quick spray down here so that it just dries really fast, okay? But I've sprayed more up there to get the benefit of the saturation. Alright. Now, on these cards where I've kind of have a lighter touch, it's, you know, the difference is going to be a little more subtle. Okay, because there hasn't been as much of a layering of ink applied. Okay, now this one's going to be big. We'll go a lot up here, and we'll go less down here because those black images down there are the Versafine Clair. See that right there? Kind of an instant transformation up there. The stars stand out a little bit more too because of the contrast between the colors in the background. Okay. Now these don't take too long to dry. It depends on the weather. For me, I don't know. It's kind of a overcast, slightly windy, you know, cooler day. You know, for California. Southern California. But these should dry very, fairly quickly. You know, a few minutes, I would say. 10 minutes, maybe. Some sprays are thicker, like a Krylon triple thick, and naturally, the thicker the spray, the longer you'll have to wait. Okay, now I think that this one's going to be tricky. Maybe I should have stamped that in just a plain dye-based ink right there with this, you know, spray sealant in mind. But I think I stamped that in the Clair. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to give it a very thin spray as opposed to a real thick one. Okay, so that it hits it and it dries fast. Especially not over the trees, but over. Okay, the wind cooking in right now. Hopefully this doesn't go flying. But okay, look at that bottom part. What a transformation, right? Now I want that at the top, but I don't want to hit it too thick because I don't want that that word stamp to blend and smear. So you hit it kind of lightly like that. Hit it over here a little bit thicker. But we'll allow this to dry over the top, okay? Let it set up for a little bit. Okay, then I'll hit it again with another quick spray like that. We'll allow that to dry. What we're doing is we're not allowing the spray sealant over the top of the words to sit for too long, and allowing it to, the inks to go back into solution and spread. You have to be a little bit patient, but you know, it doesn't take forever. Okay, now when you think you gotta have a good seal over the top of that, you know, that quote, or that ink, I should say, anything that's stamped in that ink, you can give it a thicker spray, because it's kind of sealed in underneath the acrylic coating that's already been dry. Okay, so quite a big change on that one, right? Okay, now I need to be careful about the airplane. It's windy and it's loud here. Okay, let's get this one right here. This one's just all dye-based ink, I think. I'm not sure if that Moonlight is sculpture, if that was the Clair. Alright. This one doesn't have that extreme a saturation of inks, you know, in terms of the layering, so... But it does help the ones that are down there. Same thing with this one right here. This one looks like it was done on... I think that's the Glossy cardstock, I can't even tell. Alright. What happens is it pushes the contrast to depth. These are all stamped out in the Versafine Clair. Be careful about that. Now, I mean, I probably should have spray sealed this before applying the crystals, because this is going to get, you know, going to spray them, and it could kind of dull them out a little bit, but hey, you know, so be it. Okay. I sprayed up here, and I sprayed down there. That little area down there is hasn't been sprayed right along there. It made it darker up here, and it's lighter in here. I think I like that look. I'm going to just leave it as is. So in a way, you're using this as like another medium, you know. Okay, let's see. 2 last pieces. Or no, wait, 1 last piece. And there we have it. Okay, so let's take a look at these. see what we have. Like, I need to be careful right here because sometimes I think they're dry and I stack them and take them inside and they're really, you know, some of them are still wet. But anyways, by and large, sometimes they dry and they don't look quite as kind of saturated as freshly sprayed, but they are for the most part. You can always hit them again to bring out that saturation a little bit more, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, just be careful about those pigment ink impressions, or you can just kind of stick with all the dye-based ones too. Dye-based, you can just spray right over it because, you know, the solvent-based acrylic spray isn't going to put back in solution water because so that solvent and water don't mix, okay? Or it can be affected by it, but oil can. All right, oil and things like alcohol inks. Oh, okay. Now, see, I didn't spray everything. Like, I'm not spraying things like the photo stamping piece because that was all done in alcohol inks, and it's not really going to change it. Those other ones didn't dull out, okay, or like the foil. So I'm only doing the ones that really could benefit from a spray sealant, you know, in terms of kind of reinvigorating the depth and vibrancy. So anyways, if you've watched these videos, I hope you've enjoyed them. Thank you for watching them. And for the group that's getting together to do a little stamping, I hope these came in handy for you. And I hope you enjoyed doing them, executing them, and whatnot. If you have any questions, drop me a note in the comments section. And as always, thanks for tuning into the Stampscapes channel.